The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome.
Welcome and happy Halloween.
And happy Halloween.
Yay, my favorite holiday.
Yes, here we are.
Yes.
Episode 29.
29.
And it is...
This is Halloween.
All right.
Yeah.
We're excited.
We are.
And it is indeed Halloween.
It is.
So, as we said earlier.
Yes, it is.
Well, before we jump into episode 29,
yes.
would you like to recap anything from last week?
Sure. Well, we don't really have much from last week. Last week was Devil episode, and it was awesome. It was well received.
Yeah, it was fun.
But there were a few things I wanted to talk about this week. One of them is what's been going on here the last couple of days.
Yeah, it's a little bit of hell.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of goes
kidding.
with last week. Yeah, because today is Halloween, like we said, and we really wanted to have this episode out for you Halloween morning. But Mother Nature had other things in mind, and when we woke up yesterday morning, we didn't have power because we live in Southern California and it's wildfire season here. And then an hour after our power went out, a big fire broke out right down the street.
Yeah.
It was a horrible day yesterday.
Yeah. It's been a little on edge.
Yeah, but we got our power back, and so here we are. So It didn't go in our timeline, but that's okay because we're recording on Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not giving up.
Oh, no.
So.
I'm not a quitter. You're not a quitter.
Ain't no fire.
Who quits?
No fire going to scare me.
No fur.
No fire going to keep me down. All right.
We keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we are. It's Halloween.
I walk dogs with the fire.
Now we just
Why
hope
can't I
that
do
they
a
don't
podcast?
shut the power off right now in the middle of this next hour.
Yeah, please just wait. Because it is out throughout town. We're very lucky to have power right now.
Yes, we are.
So.
Cool.
Yeah. And then there was something interesting that happened this week that I wanted to share because it's along the psychic lines. That this happened to my friend Chelsea and her husband. And what happened is her husband was reheating some food on the stove, and as he walked away from the stove, he heard in his mind, wouldn't it be funny if you turned on the wrong burner? But he didn't listen to it, right? And he went about his business, and all of a sudden there's the smell of plastic because he turned on the wrong burner, and it was a spatula that he basically set on fire instead of heating up his food. So he told Chelsea that after they figured out what happened, and he was like, wow, it's so weird because I heard in my own voice wouldn't it be funny if? Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to point out that is really one of the ways that I don't know if it's your higher self or it's the universe or what it is, but it's a way that they, so to speak, will get a message to you. Yeah. Is using your own voice and using those little things. Wouldn't it be funny if, or I haven't had this happen in a long time, or, things like that.
Right. Has Chelsea tried to explain to Tyler prior to that that's sort of how you kind of do receive messages?
I think she did a little bit, but after this, I think it was good for him to see it himself. And I think that what's happening to him right now is he's a lot farther behind than you are, a lot. Right. But I think now he's starting to see, oh, wait. Now they're starting to show me more so that I understand and can be on the same page as my wife. Because it is really, really important that with a psychic medium that we're on the same page. Right. I mean, not like we have to be at the same level, but you can't be like not a believer and not supportive because this is, So.
And I kind of think that there's a reason that you do hear it in your own voice, because if people were, hearing voices that were totally somebody else's, and there probably are people, that can, and like you said, some illnesses that might be misdiagnosed as they're actually gifts, or, and they don't understand it. Yeah. But once I could wrap my head around that like, oh yeah, it's my voice. Right. So it feels like part of my consciousness. Right. Is it connected to something else? Right. To a different place that's sort of feeding you that thought. And you often brush it off because it is your own voice.
That's exactly right. But if you think about it, how else are they supposed to get messages through to you? If like for me, now I have both. I have my own voice that does that. And I have, most of the time it's my mom that sends me messages. It's not necessarily her voice. It's almost like it doesn't have a voice at all. It's just a feeling or a thought. I don't know how to explain it.
Right.
But I can distinguish the difference between them now, because usually the ones from her come in as you, and the ones in my own, the one that are to myself, maybe my higher conscience or the universe, come in as I. They come in as I should do this, or wow, I didn't do that, or blah, whatever it is. You have to pay attention to those when they happen.
Yeah.
Because there usually is a reason. And then you can see
a significant difference you can kind of decode and be like, oh yeah, that could be the other, them, as opposed to my own consciousness.
It's not easy, and I think that that's one of the reasons why people don't really like pay much attention to it or try to do it more, is because it is really hard to figure out unless you're like born with the ability to distinguish it,
right,
and to know this,
right,
and you have to learn it like myself and like you. It's difficult.
Yeah, I think I was just sort of taught that those are just like another thought that runs through your head.
Yeah.
But they often do have a different sort of feeling about them.
They do.
I don't always notice it right then, but definitely after.
The ones for me, and I don't know, maybe there's other people that get these, is that if I am super duper overconfident about something that's going to happen, that's my mind's way of telling me that I'm too relaxed about it. It's really weird how that happens to me. So instead of like my voice telling me something bad is coming, I will be super duper relaxed. I don't understand it. But when it's like something, except for like the fires and stuff, then I get nervous. But like I'll just feel, I don't even know how to explain it. Just like, no big deal. Like, it's not a big problem.
Right.
And then I catch myself. I'm like, oh, that's a message to yourself that it is a big deal, that you need to pay attention to it. I hate those. I wish that they could just be more direct about it instead of screwing with my head like that.
Well, maybe they don't want,
I don't know.
They don't want to cause panic,
like Right. And that's another way that I know, too, if it's my voice or theirs, is that if it's panic, it's my own. They're not going to panic me. Like yesterday, I was in full panic mode, and I could hear my mom, calm down, calm down. But the thing about yesterday was that I actually witnessed this fire start, and it traumatized me. And so the whole rest of the day, I just couldn't calm down. Couldn't, at that point, I couldn't distinguish voices so much either. Yeah. And that's something too, is if your mind is clouded, it's usually, harder for them to get through.
We all have them.
We do.
There's bad and good days.
There's bad and good days, yeah. But those little things that happen to you, pay attention to them more.
Yeah.
Even the ones that are like, such and such, I haven't heard from this person in a long time, and then you hear from them. Those are the like types of things as well.
Yeah, I had that recently.
Yeah.
Gabe was like, I messaged him about some guitar work, and he's all, how funny. I was just listening to the episode about manifestation, I believe, or something, and and I said, see, you were thinking about me, and voila.
Right.
I messaged you.
Exactly. It happens to me like that all the time, that someone will be like, oh, you must have read my mind. I was just thinking about you. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting that intuitive thought, because I do believe, too, that you can send those out. Mm-hmm. That we really can, like, alert each other and kind of communicate with each other that way if you are focused enough on it. It's very possible.
And if you have a particular connection to certain people that you feel...
Yes.
Maybe they kind of have some similar connection to or belief system, and then therefore you're sort of more connected.
Right.
It then opens that up a little more.
That's exactly right.
And you can kind of tune into people sort of a little bit.
That's exactly right. The more you open it, and especially like us opening it together, it's like
it's
really...
like a ham radio. Yeah. Like you just keep turning the dial.
That's exactly what it is.
And if both your dials are turning to the same frequency, then you will connect. And
that's funny that you say that, because that is one of the ways that they kind of talk about the communication with the other side, and what it's like is it's almost like trying to find that perfect station, and it doesn't always come in clear, and it's hard. You have
it's not based on radio waves, it's based on vibrational waves.
Exactly.
Yes.
That boom.
Unagi.
Yes. Yes. Salmon skin roll. If you are a Friends fan, you know what we're talking about. So, yeah. Anyways, we rambled on about that one. But cool. I like that topic.
Nice.
I like to teach people how to use their psychic abilities that they don't even know they have, because you do have them. We all have them.
Right.
There's nothing special about me.
Yeah.
You see it for yourself because you're starting to build them.
And I'll still get blatant signs and want to argue the hell out of it. Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, still want to go, really? Do you think that's what they're trying to say?
Yeah. All the time.
Exactly. I mean, the next closest sign would be the piano falling out of the building on top of me.
Right. Or a sign that says, this is what's going to happen. I think that's what we're waiting for. Yeah. We're all waiting for that big sign to come out of the air to say, this is what you're supposed to do. And that it doesn't work like that.
There would be no fun in it.
No.
You actually can find the answers. You just have to look close enough.
That's exactly right. And it does take patience, too. Yeah. All of it. Anyway.
Cool.
More rambling.
Yeah.
So that I wanted to say that I'm announcing next week what our big episode is that I've been working on.
Yeah.
And this episode is going to be heavy. It's about mass shootings. And the reason that we're doing it next week is because it's the 1-year anniversary of the Borderline shooting, which was in our hometown, or where we grew up.
Yeah. So that's apropos.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that and stuff. So
good.
But we'll still make it interesting and as lighthearted as we can. There's a great story that comes with it.
There is.
Why I'm so tied to Borderline about things that happen afterwards that I'm really excited to share, because most people, I don't really think anybody knows these stories. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, shall we jump into 29 then?
Yes.
All right. This in fact,
is Halloween. Yay. After today, it's over.
That's it, folks.
Yeah. That's a whole
We'll be bombarded with Christmas decorations in every store you walk in.
They're already
up. I know. It's so irritating.
I can't even think about it.
Okay.
Anyways.
Let's go for it.
Okay. So, what is Halloween? Halloween is an annual holiday celebrated each year on October 31st, also known as All Hallows Eve.
Yeah.
It dates back 2,000 years when it was marked as the Celtic New Year. So basically, like our January 31st and then, December 31st and January 1st, right? Theirs was just October 31st and November 1st. And so All Hallows Eve was Halloween, and then All Hallows Day was November 1st. And that was kind of like the Day of the Dead? It was similar to that. It was like a day for spirits and such. I think they kind of looked at it as like a day that the spirit world and the human world crossed.
Right.
So like you could almost like bad spirits could come in on those on that day. So.
I wonder if they chose that too because harvest is October 31st.
Yes, I was going to get into that. So
being at Celtic, I'm guessing they worked the land.
Yes, it actually was. Halloween was originally known as, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Samhain, and it means summer's end, and it's the beginning of harvest season. And they had bonfires and wore costumes to ward off evil spirits. And it was just like big festival and a lot of fun, right?
Right.
But then as, time goes, it started to become more of a mischievous type holiday. And that went on for quite some time. And we will get into that a little later. But that's the definition and a little bit of background on how Halloween got started.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I asked our listeners if they like Halloween, if it was, one of the holiday that they like. And 90% of our listeners said that they do.
Ask a kid to dress up in a costume.
Yeah, and get candy.
And you do that for the first, 15 years of your life.
18.
Most of us are 18. Yeah.
What were we talking about yesterday?
I pulled up to the house, parked my car, and walked up and said trick or treat.
Oh, I remember yesterday we were talking about that exactly. Let's see, it was 1993, and we had a fire at this exact time, and so we were talking about that, and I said we were still trick or treating while the fire was going, and he was like, 1993. How old were you? And I was like, where's he going with this? I'm like, I don't know, 15. 16. And you were trick-or-treating? Were you driving to people's houses? Let me tell you what. It was really hard for me to give up the trick-or-treating because I love Halloween. It is my favorite holiday. And I love candy. And
I do too, yeah.
I don't
That's the other
necessarily
thing, too.
love
So
knocking on people's doors.
I would
but...
say most people, adults, have fond memories of Halloween because as kids, we all did it.
I do. I have a lot. My mom was also a big Halloween fan. So my entire life, it was Halloween parties. And she threw the best Halloween parties. She went all out for these things. So, yeah, my memories of Halloween growing up are amazing. And
I went through the religious phase where then I thought it was not good.
Right.
And I gave myself a bad feeling about it, you know?
Yeah.
Once I met you and I was, divorced and on to something different. It was so different.
Right. You open your mind a little bit.
Well, now I see things a lot different. So I realize there's really no correlation to anything other than it's just another holiday. It's another thing that we celebrate or embellish, you know, and maybe over-exaggerate.
Right.
I mean, don't we over-exaggerate Christmas? Well, why wouldn't we over-exaggerate Halloween, you know?
I love the fact that, like, as time goes on, Halloween becomes a bigger and bigger holiday. It didn't used to be.
No, more people are embracing it.
They really are. When we were kids, it was just like you went trick-or-treating and maybe people had Halloween decorations or pumpkins. There wasn't much at all usually. And now it's like right here in Simi Valley, we have like 4 or 5 different residents that have turned their homes into like haunted houses and graveyards.
Some of you can walk through.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great. And then the mall, their old Macy's, they turned it into a haunted house, and it has definitely become something really big. And yeah, I love that. Love that.
I love in the definition and sitting here thinking about it that the whole idea was really out of good. It was to ward off, evil spirits, or maybe even that's been kind of misconstrued through translation and time. And maybe they were like aware of the fact there was another side and some of these spirits needed to be sent. Yeah. Convinced to go home. You know, it wasn't really an evil thing. Where now kind of what you're saying, which I think is true, is it's turned a little bit where people think now it's time to summons evil spirits. Right. And it's like, no.
No, that's not it at all. Everything, like that gets misconstrued. And again, it's about perception. And it's like, if you're going to look at a day that kids dress up in costume and go trick-or-treating as something satanic, then, I mean, come on. No. It's fun, it's different than it used to be. When we were kids, it was like, I remember one year they were, the razors and the candy and all that, and put your candy through the x-rays.
Right.
But
then
now
they started individually wrapping everything,
But now it's more about like predators for kids. And so here you see that a lot of neighborhoods have huge things going on instead of like going, it makes it safe. I love that. Mm-hmm. We don't get really any trick-or-treaters at all. I don't buy candy, really. I bought Trader Joe's fruit snacks this year because I'm like, we'll eat those if the kids don't come, because they never do. Right. Because they go to the other areas, and it's great.
That's cool. It's cool that there's adults out there that want to keep it prominent, important enough where they'll make a community that's safe for the kids to wander around in and do it, as opposed to just like when we were kids, just whatever.
Yeah,
go to
wherever.
Many houses.
Yeah.
You could walk as far as you could walk back,
Exactly. That's, what we did. My grandfather would drop us off on the top of the hill and we would walk down to the bottom of it. And it was always so much fun.
But you posted that meme about the couldn't see, couldn't breathe.
Oh, the old costumes.
Let's go
let
get
me see
some
if I can
candy
find that.
Or something. But I always remember the Thrifties costumes, and they were the plastic kind of pullover mask.
I love those. I had a strawberry shortcake
just the
one.
Plastic coverall kind of costume, but those I couldn't wait to get there to get mine,
Exactly. It was like, oh, when those hit stores, Halloween is there. Okay, so it's got a bunch of kids dressed in those. Oh, and then my Facebook refreshes. Why does it do that now? It's like you go onto Facebook and you see what you want and then it disappears. Okay, there it is again. Okay, it's got a bunch of kids dressed up in those plastic costumes and it says, can't breathe, can't see. Let's walk around and knock on doors.
Yeah.
Save times.
Right. The seeing part wasn't quite as bad if it fit you right, but the breathing. Was like, they did not make big enough holes for the mouth.
No, it was just miserable.
But I loved them.
I did too. It was because that's all we knew.
Yeah.
You know, we just enjoyed what we had. Now they have all these crazy elaborate costumes. I saw one on Facebook today that was How to Train Your Dragon. It was the dragon and it was a blow up. And so then it had the little boy looked like he was sitting on top of the dragon. It was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Because then, it has the fan in there and keeps it all like blown up.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's so
like
elaborate.
The T-Rex thing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I want one of those. Those are so cool. Yeah, those are. So we watched an episode of Drunk History a while back.
Yep.
Where they talked about this woman that turned Halloween from a day of mischief into a day of festivities again, like it originally was.
That's what that episode
That's what it was,
about.
right.
Okay.
I couldn't remember completely.
Yeah, it wasn't really about the history so much.
It wasn't, and I had to go back and kind of reread everything on it because I couldn't remember what it was. But it was just about basically this woman. Her name was Elizabeth Curbs, and she was really big into gardening, and she was actually the president of the gardening club. And on Halloween, the kids would basically come trample her garden, and it was for pranks. It was mischief, right? So she tried to do a couple of different things to make it better for the kids every year to try and get them to not do that.
Right.
But nothing really worked, right? And then let's see. It says, on Halloween 1914, Elizabeth put her plan into action. She organized a town-wide Halloween parade complete with events, games, and costume contests. Practically everyone in the town came. When November 1st rolled in, the town's police chief visited Elizabeth at home. He informed her that the reports of destruction were down dramatically from the previous year. So she put made it a whole positive thing and made a whole festival out of it. And every year it got better and better. And every year that those traditions spread farther and farther just because of this one woman. And now instead of the trick or treat being so much like, I'm really going to give you, a trick, it's just a phrase that we use. And, for the most part, kids are much more well-behaved than they were back in those times when it comes to Halloween.
Right.
We don't really see that, because there's always those mischievous ones. And we think, but for the most part, this lady did something really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really neat.
But then you have guys like Billy Corgan that, name their band Smashing Pumpkins just to keep that alive.
Yeah. That was always a tradition.
Miss Curbs, you're not going to get me.
Yeah, I hated that. I always felt bad, for people after their pumpkins were smashed, and then you get to be a teenager, and you're like,
Yeah.
No, not peer pressure. So I thought, what else could we talk about when it comes to Halloween, right? What are all things Halloween? This is Halloween. So I started looking up things like Dracula and vampires and wanted to kind of find out where these things came from. And all of these things, I'm looking back, these are like vampires, zombies. They're all old folklore, old fiction that for whatever reason has just kept with us. And, I don't think for the most part that people believe that vampires and zombies are actually a real thing.
No, well, Vladimir Dracula was a real person, if I'm...
Right, I didn't do any research on the actual person, but
I believe, if I'm correct, from Romania, was a very sick man, I'm thinking, or angry person, because he wasn't very nice and killed people, but I don't believe he was a vampire that turned into a bat, flew around, slept in a coffin, and couldn't come out in the daylight.
No.
No.
Well, let me tell you what my research found. And I don't know much about the person Dracula, but I'll tell you what I did find.
Okay.
So Dracula and vampires are undead, which is basically revived after death, creatures with fangs that prey upon humans generally by consuming their blood. Folklore traced as far back as ancient Greece stories of people being attacked in their sleep and drained of the blood of their bodies. Okay. So these are just stories.
Right.
And really what was happening back then is that there wasn't a lot of knowledge on different kinds of diseases. So for example, things like tuberculosis or rabies, or there is actually something that makes you sensitive to light. These are things that people were seeing and calling them like vampires for. Right. So it was all, again, like misunderstandings, and these things weren't actually happening. People weren't having their blood drained to them. They just had, there's a couple different diseases that make it look like maybe your blood was drained. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all just comes back to folklore.
And misunderstanding. Naiveness, not knowing what something is.
Right. That's exactly the naiveness, and not having, like, now we have the internet and we can look things up, which doesn't make things any better because there's still stuff that's spread. Right. I mean, there will always be, but it gives us good Hollywood. All of these old tales, these old folklore, they definitely give us good Hollywood.
Like the Mummy, he just gets up out of his coffin and starts walking around.
Exactly. Like, really.
Right.
I love mummies. I really do. Not the movie, The Mummies, but I have an Egyptian thing. So
I think out of all like the spooky characters from Halloween, the Mummy is like the one that you kind of don't take as serious.
Isn't that right?
I don't know why.
Why is that?
Like you could just run away from the guy so fast. He can't see because he's only got one eye.
Yeah,
visible.
It's funny that you say that
from
because,
the rap.
Like, looking back, okay, so there used to be a maze type thing at Universal Studios that was always there. It wasn't just for Halloween Horror Nights. It was like the classic, the classic monsters.
Right when you walked in,
to the left.
To the left.
It was classic monsters. It was Frankenstein and the Wolfman and all those. And looking back at it, the Mummy, they didn't scare me.
Maybe because you couldn't see their face. It was just like a bunch of toilet paper wrapped around him or whatever. And
yeah, it wasn't scary. Like the Wolfmen, those are kind of scary.
Again, because you could see for me, it was like because I could see their face, their teeth, their eyes.
Exactly.
The Mummy was just like, "What are you taking serious? What are you?"
Yeah, with his arms out. Ooh, you're scary. You can barely run. I can run way faster than you. Right. Maybe that's what it is because you can outrun a mummy.
Right.
Yeah. And depending on what movie you're watching, it depends on the other characters. But my knowledge of vampires basically comes from watching HBO's True Blood, which was, not, it was based on vampires, but it had more HBO themes, So
now, as a kid, going back to like walking into Thrifty to get my Halloween costume for the year, I don't ever recall zombies being a thing.
No?
As a kid, I never remember that as a costume.
I don't know that I remember it as a costume.
They've been introduced as a part of that theme now much more.
Right.
As more stories and television shows and this whole concept of zombies, It has
definitely, zombies have become very mainstream.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was never like a zombie fan. It wasn't something that, I even
Walking
thought
Dead
about.
brought
The
that.
Walking Dead did it for me.
That to the forefront.
It did. And because it was the first scary movie that I saw was Night of the Living Dead. And so my concept of what a zombie was like a brain-eating creature, right? It wasn't necessarily like what The Walking Dead portrayed.
Right.
So The Walking Dead made me like go, okay, well, this is interesting. And it did. I understand where it came from, where the hype came from, because it's a lot of fun.
Right.
I mean, you can look at zombies a couple of ways. Like, some people are like, okay, a zombie apocalypse could really happen, right? And we'll get into that. I actually did a poll question just for that. And so I think that's what makes people like a little bit nervous about it.
Right.
And not maybe like that stuff as much, because it is like with Dracula and those types of things. Most of the time you can't tell that they're normal people. They're like dressed and, unless you're like Twilight or True Blood. But
Right.
The Walking Dead, it was just normal people that had died and turned into zombies, and it kind of made you think on a different level.
Right.
Yeah. So it's funny that you actually brought it up, because zombies were the next thing that I was going to get into.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to jump the gun.
No, you were perfect. I actually had finished with the vampires. So zombies are an undead fictional being created through the reanimation of a corpse. So you die and you come back to life as a zombie. And depending on what movie you're watching, usually what happens is the victim will get bit by a zombie and then they will die and turn into a zombie.
Right.
Is typically how it happens. Now, in The Walking Dead, everybody had it. So no matter how you died, when you died, you reanimated.
Because the virus.
Right, exactly. Right. But like, there's other ones that aren't like that. I think that, because we just went and saw Zombieland the other day.
Which was great.
That Zombieland 2, great movie if you haven't seen it.
It was pretty darn as good as the first one.
It was, very much so, because it had the original cast, so how could it not be? It was really good. But I think in that one, it's different. They don't have to die. They don't have to die and come back to life. They can turn into a zombie while they're still alive. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different with each show or whatever, just like anything else. So the word zombie came from the Congo word nzambi, which defines it as a spirit that is supposed to, I didn't finish my sentence. Basically, what I was saying was a spirit that's supposed to give people a hard time, like terrorize people. So what they're saying is that there's a spirit inside of that zombie that's doing that. And I don't look at it that way. And maybe that's why some people have problems with it.
Occupies a dead body.
Right, exactly. Okay. So it's almost like a devilish, type of way of looking at it. I don't look at it that way.
No.
At all. And so coming back to actually could it actually happen? Because it ties right into there. I asked our listeners if they believe that a zombie apocalypse could actually happen, and 62% said no. And here's the thing is that there are a lot of scientists that believe that it could happen.
Right.
Just not the way that the movies may portray it to.
Right.
What they think that could happen is that there's different diseases, and I think they saw this a couple of years ago in Russia, because the climate's changing, and so the snow is melting. Yeah. And then there's like frozen animals, and I don't know, they're like zombified. It's really weird. It's I think it's rabies and a couple of other things that are becoming more prevalent. There was something else, but there are different types of diseases, they say, that can mutate and portray themselves as a kind of zombie type virus.
Right.
Rabies, toxoplasmosis, encephalitis, these things that affect the brain, they could do these kinds of things.
Well, and then there's also substances that have caused some of this behavior, like bath salts.
Bath salts,
would be a good example.
Yeah.
Where somebody's going to like actually try to eat somebody while they're alive.
Right.
I think one of the stories was a guy doing it to his friend after they both taken it, and the police fired several shots at this guy before he actually stopped, like before he died, I think.
Yeah.
But like they said, it was remarkable about how he just kept going, even though he was being shot at.
Yeah. I remember that. That was like 2011, 12-ish that these things became big,
and then the other one that I've watched some videos on was Flauca, which is a big...
what's that?
It's a big drug in Florida that kind of makes... It's like that bath salt. They as far as their body, they act very zombie-ish, very jerky.
The jerky.
And like, bah, just... I haven't heard or seen any report about anybody going after... But I've seen people, like cops on some of these videos, trying to take guys down on that stuff, and it's like a super drug.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's crazy.
It's like PCP on PCP.
Does it make them stronger too? That's something else that's scary.
That's the impression that I get.
Right.
But PCP was known for that people on that could almost be unstoppable.
Oh, wow, really?
To a certain degree. But
that's kind of scary if you think about it, because I can't remember how much of our brain they say that we use, but it's a very small percentage.
Oh, yeah.
So there's got to be other reasons why we have the rest of our brain, right? Like, I really believe that with my abilities, I use a part of my brain that maybe others don't in a certain way. So when you look at this kind of thing, it's like, what part of the brain is doing that? Is it something we don't normally open? Like, what is it?
Exactly. I think really it does open it. I mean, and there's a lot of chemicals that do that.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've experimented in my life. In high school, did LSD a few times and was like, okay, this is unlocking something.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
That I was not using.
Yeah.
As far as kind of understanding the universe. And this is before I even got into being older and understanding about the other side. I was just contemplating and feeling completely at one.
Right.
And understanding without any word being spoken that this all makes sense.
I can understand that.
It's really weird.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I think that what you're saying, it opens a part of your mind, but it also, like, even though it's a drug like LSD, I've never done really anything like that. So I can only imagine, but I would have to imagine it also, like, relaxes you to open your mind. Like, if it's anything like marijuana where, you know, you like, whoa, just thinking.
Right. It's way stronger than that. I mean,
well,
I never had a bad situation on it. Thank God. But, yeah, but it's similar, very similar. Yeah.
I don't like to hallucinate, so I've stayed away from all of those drugs. But now, I wouldn't do it at my age.
Right.
But
no,
I do wonder, with my abilities, what that would do to my brain. Would it make it stronger? Would it make it?
Well, that exactly was kind of the point I was going to get to. Is that sort of what you're able to do is the same, but without that need for a substance or something to unlock it. You're learning to use that muscle.
Right.
I think we both are, or anybody that's kind of on this journey is learning how to use that muscle without relying on any chemical or drink or anything to do that.
You have to build it.
Right.
Yeah.
But definitely there are some things that can, I think, allow the brain to be unlocked.
Oh, yeah.
By ingesting certain things, you know?
And all of these things come, well, maybe not some of the chemically made drugs, but a lot of them come from the earth, you know?
Yeah.
Mushrooms and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. That's one thing maybe I regret not doing, just because I would have liked to have seen what that might be like. But,
well, it could be similar to LSD, because I had tried that too way back in the day, but I was always modest. I didn't go for a huge amount. I didn't want a bad experience. I got exactly what I looked for, and I was just easy about it and modest, and
you're very lucky.
I had great experiences with it. Yeah,
you're very lucky, because I think that I would freak out. I'm not good with that kind of stuff, so I just stayed away from it.
A lot of people are like that.
Yeah, it's just too scary, and especially
I don't
with my
recommend
brain.
it for people. No. If you're worried about it, but there was a big push in the 60s, you know, with Dennis Leary and the whole LSD studies and things like that. And it was almost to a point where they were like accepting it, and then it got all shut down.
Yeah.
On them. But
I wish they would do more studies just to see what our brains are capable of when it comes to that, because, you know, we talk about these things like zombies coming back to life and that, and it's obviously fiction, but our brains can do a lot of things, and they can get a lot of different viruses themselves. And then what do they do?
And then you have to look at the way that our lives intertwine with entertainment, and how art imitates life and life imitates art.
Right.
And you gotta, sometimes I do find myself questioning, like, wow, could that ever happen on a large scale like that?
Well, if you remember, when you and I first started dating, I was very heavy into Walking Dead and zombies and all that, obviously. But I remember telling you that the apartment complex that I was living at when we started dating, it was completely gated. And so me and my friends had plans that if there was a zombie apocalypse, that's where we were going to stay. And right down the street was Costco, and next door was Lowe's, and we would be perfectly set, and we could cut holes in the floor. We had like a whole thing planned.
Right. The only problem with that plan, because I lived in this apartment with you, two things. One is that slamming garbage container door that would attract every zombie within 100 miles.
Well, we would take it off. I mean, there's things you do, you know, come on.
Number two would be that the front gate often was either stuck shut or stuck open.
Well, but if you don't have power and you just keep it shut, see, you're not thinking
they had
like
power. In The Walking Dead, they have power.
No, Walking Dead didn't have power.
Yes, they do.
No, they didn't.
You need to watch a few more episodes.
No, you need to watch a few more episodes.
There are lights on in the houses and stuff when they're in there.
Yes, at the end, not at the beginning of the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, okay. I don't.
They learn how to do those things like now. Now it's unrealistic. We don't even watch it anymore.
No, because it's just like
unrealistic. Listen to me.
It's not. It's not that. I think for what it is, they made a great show.
Yes.
But again, if I was living in it, I'd be like, excuse me, how long is this going to go on for?
Yes.
That's kind of how I started feeling watching the show. I'm like, okay, it's getting old now.
Right.
This is not coming to an end.
Yeah. It started to get dumb, just like anything else. They totally messed with the production of it, and it ended up being more like a soap opera, and I was just done with it. But for a while there, it was a really big, fun part of my life. I don't know why I enjoyed it so much. I liked going to, there was a shooting range where you could shoot the zombie, paper zombies. Yeah, we have one on our ceiling. It was just fun. I don't know. People think I'm weird for that. I have a shirt that says "I love zombies." I don't know.
No, it was a fun run, but I could kind of see myself, because I got into it a little bit before I started dating you, and then I stopped, and then you were into it. Yeah. So I just said, I watched a little bit of the first couple, series, but
and
seasons,
then
excuse me.
You started getting into it too.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. Suck you into the zombies.
Know. Okay, so besides zombies, what else?
Well, okay, so I have this, the philos-o-raptor.
Yeah.
So he's the...
I love that guy.
The raptor, what do they call those? Yeah, he has his little talon and he holds it up like he's thinking, And what he's thinking in this meme is, if a vampire bites a zombie, the vampire becomes a zombie, or the zombie becomes a vampire.
That's a good one, philos-o-raptor.
Yeah. That's why we started this, actually, a little history. Philos-o-chatter actually started as philos-o-raptoring, because we would have deep conversations that were started a lot of times just like that.
Yeah.
And so that's where the name came from.
Exactly. We just didn't want to call ourselves raptors because we're not dinosaurs.
Right, exactly. So we made it chatter.
Yeah.
Well, you made it chatter because you came up with the name.
When we chat.
We do, exactly.
We like to chat.
It's perfect. So anyways, so then I put that meme up, and my friend Melissa, she commented, she said, if a vampire bites a zombie, it would not turn because the zombie does not have blood flow to travel through the vampire's saliva through its system. Now, if a zombie bit a vampire, possibly, but that assumes a vampire as blood that does flow to spread the virus. Does that make sense? I'm just reading it straight from what she said. I understand what she's saying. It's like they can't,
but the vampire's dead also.
They're both dead.
But the zombie is drained of blood, but the vampire contains blood.
The zombie has blood. It's just different. It's black blood. It's weird.
That's a deep one that I probably wouldn't. I like the meme, but I would have never tried to really crack the code. I don't know.
Well, then she continued, and this was good. She said, although I forgot the most important part of the whole discussion, they wouldn't bite each other because neither one has the kind of blood the other likes. They both only eat living things.
Yeah, they want living humans.
Which is very true. But then I thought, well, zombies get confused because they just like sound and movement and stuff like that. So a zombie could bite a vampire. A vampire uses logic, so he probably wouldn't bite a zombie because he'd look at that and go, why would I want to bite that? So there you go. There's the answer to the...
But even a zombie walking by a dead zombie on the ground,
right.
They're not going to munch on them.
No, they leave them alone.
Because there's flesh left.
Yeah.
They're not interested in... There's something about the smell.
There is something about the smell, too, yeah.
Of a real live person, I guess.
Obviously, we're talking way too
much. Like, this is real.
People are probably like, what is wrong with
we
these
gotta
two?
Get away from zombies.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. Yeah, that is something that we could go on and on about. Really, that was most of what I asked our listeners. I asked what their favorite Halloween candy was. And believe it or not, a lot of our listeners agree with you that it is candy corn.
Really?
Yeah.
And those pumpkin creams, which is the same thing. They just make them bigger.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to tell Samantha, don't bring those home.
Yeah. Don't buy those.
I'll put a bag away of those in several hours.
They only have them once a year, though.
I don't know what it is about those things, but man, they're just it's like it brings back so many like memories and there's wonderment going on and
yeah, that's how I feel about Girl Scout cookies. I don't know why, but yeah, I don't know. For me, I think my favorite Halloween candy is Reese's peanut butter cups. I like when Marina comes home, there's certain things that we look for, and she gives us the stuff that she doesn't like. Mr. Goodbar is one of my favorites, so I always
she doesn't like that.
No,
the Reese's you'll have to fight her on.
Yeah, exactly. Or sneak one.
Not Mr. Goodbar. I usually like a lot of the stuff you guys don't like, but
yeah, you're more of a hard candy type person.
No, not really hard candy, more like gummies.
The gummies and like not the chocolates, like the Starburst and
I like
the
those
Skittles
Taffies
and stuff like
and
that.
Gummies.
Yeah, where we're like, I like the chocolate, she likes the white chocolate. So yeah, listen to us, and you know what? It's coming tonight too. Hopefully, if the winds calm down.
Yeah, for her and her friends, and all the kids, I really hope that this wind calms down because what a sight that would see kids like walking at a 42-degree angle down the street.
Yeah.
Because the wind's just blasting.
And I remember as a kid, like, there were a couple of years that it was raining, and it was such a bummer because it's like you only have a certain amount of years in your childhood to have these Halloweens. I mean, at least that's the way I looked at it because I loved Halloween. And Marina's kind of bummed because she didn't get to wear her costume to school today, and all of her friends are being lifeguards. So, but because schools are closed because of the weather and the fires. So hopefully tonight,
we should do this one year. I was thinking because Samantha is only 5 feet tall.
Yeah, I'm very short.
She's tiny. So if we just got like a white sheet, and cut some holes, and I could walk up like to the the edge of the walkway with her.
Yeah.
And she could walk up to the door and just be like in her highest voice, trick or treat.
Hey, I'm game. Let's go.
We could get them like a mass amounts of candy.
It's like we were talking about this last night. Why can't we just go buy our own bag of candy? You know why? Because it's more fun to have an assortment and to get home. Like when I remember as a kid, when I would get home from trick or treating, I would take my bag of candy and I would dump it out on the coffee table and I would sort it. I would sort each candy. I got Reese's here. I got M&M's here. I don't know. Did anybody else do that? Maybe I'm the only one.
Did you ever use a specific bag for your candy? I always used a pillowcase.
I did too as I got older, but when I was younger, I had like the little jack-o'-lantern that you held, the plastic ones.
Yeah, I wouldn't be caught dead with any of that stuff. My mom would be like, "You want to get that?" Nope, I want a pillowcase.
Shocker, Mr. Cool over here. I can only imagine what you dressed up for as a kid for Halloween.
I can't even remember.
You probably didn't even dress up. You probably, like as a teenager, did you even go trick-or-treating as a teenager?
Not, maybe towards the end of elementary school. I don't really recall junior high school and high school trick-or-treating.
Yeah, you probably were too cool for that.
Definitely not high school.
Yeah.
No.
I have no shame.
I mean, we may have dressed up and gone to a party, but I didn't trick-or-treat.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Thankfully.
That's why when you told me you didn't what was the last year you were 16?
Well, the last year I trick-or-treated was 94, so I was 17.
17.
But that year, that fire, I was 16. But yeah. And I think the only reason that I didn't go my senior year was because I was dating somebody that was 20 years old, and so he wasn't going to go.
He's like, "What are you doing for Halloween?" Well, I was thinking about...
No, I remember being at his house, and like, we were waiting for trick-or-treaters, and I'm like, and candy. Like, why can't we just trick-or-treat?
He gets up in the morning, he's like, "That's funny, that bowl of candy was like full last night. It's half empty now."
Yeah. No, and that's why I haven't even bought.
We had a mad rush of kids. Didn't you hear them?
They took it. I mean, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I hope that it's cool tonight because I know Marina's excited.
Yeah, and for all the kids, that it'll be fun and,
they're all dressing up as like a group of lifeguards.
Yeah.
Lifeguards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So hopefully for them, hopefully for all the kids, not just in Simi, all over California, everywhere.
It's funny, when she was born, I was obviously, remarried somebody else, and I had gone through, like I said, a religious part of my life where I didn't embrace Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
But when she was born and I started thinking about that, I was like, I can't rob her of that experience because of my particular belief on the situation at the time.
Yeah.
And I think even my ex-wife was a little bit sort of conflicting with it, like, do we or don't we? And I said, I honestly believe that neither one of us were robbed of the opportunity.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't rob her. Mm-hmm. She can make up her own mind. You know, you could share with her what you believe. I could share with her what I believe.
Right.
I never really did
talk
to her about that because she was just so young.
Right.
But now I'm at a place where it's like, you know what? Just experience it. Kind of similar that I was then. I just want you to experience things in life and make up your own mind.
Right.
I don't want you to do what I think or I like.
Right.
I want you to do what you're into.
Right. Make the decision yourself. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, she's kind of middle ground on it. She's not totally about it and she's not totally against it. But I think for everybody, it comes down to perception. And you can look at it as a devil's holiday and all about, you know, things that scare you.
Right.
Or you can look at it as a fun day to dress up, to take your kids to do fun things, trick or treating. That's how I look at it. Right. I've always looked at it that way because that's how I was raised. I'm
really happy that like we took her a couple years ago to Halloween Horror Nights.
Last year.
Mm-hmm. We took her to Halloween Horror Nights. I never thought that would be something I would do with my kid. I never thought she would go. And I never thought she would go.
No.
I don't think she'll ever go again.
Well, she went to Fright Fest. She did
go to Fright Fest.
Yeah, she was fun. But, she doesn't go through the mazes and stuff, but she won't go to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal
What's cool about it was like, you know what? You were with your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened to you.
Yeah.
You got scared. And it's something that she'll remember for the rest of her life.
Yeah. I hated that stuff when I was her age. Absolutely hated it. My first one of those types of things was at Not Scary Farm, and they're brutal there because they have these like loud shaking cans and they slide around on these discs on their knees.
Sparks.
Yeah, they make sparks and loud sounds, and I don't like loud sounds, so that was not a good experience for me. And then as I got older, I started getting more and more into it, and it just became something I really enjoyed. But to be honest, I'm desensitized to it completely. Yeah. We didn't do any of it this year.
No.
And it's okay because I honestly would like some time to maybe desensitize so that I could enjoy it again because it is a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Again, if you look at it from a fun standpoint.
That's where it changed for me was that even though Marina's a baby, I was like, I want her to experience it. Maybe I wasn't in a place where I understood it.
Right.
Now I'm older, more mature, and I've grown that I realize this has nothing to do with hell, and this has nothing to do with God or religion. It's just man-made. We've created this thing, and it's intentional, and it's okay as long as people behave themselves.
That's
you know what I mean?
It's about.
It's just having fun.
Have fun.
But even hearing the origin of what it's about makes me feel even better because it's like, oh, you know, that's what it really was about. It was coming together to protect each other and ward off certain energies, you know, if you will.
And back then, I really believe that they used a lot more of their intuitive abilities and did communicate more with the other side. So they probably saw things and heard things that we don't. And like you said, they may have had those souls that they felt, you know, not necessarily were evil, but needed help crossing over or whatever the case would be. We don't know what was going on in their heads, but I don't think by any means that this is what they meant by it.
No, we're always at the mercy of time and translation, but...
Yeah, exactly. But I think even back then they knew that what they considered evil spirits, they didn't necessarily hurt you. I think they believed it was more about them too, releasing them. You know, they were way more open.
Yeah.
So I thank the Celtics for starting the holiday, and I thank everybody else for keeping it up because I love it.
Yep.
And I'm sad to see it go on tomorrow, but I'm going to enjoy it today.
Well, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
We hope you had a good episode on this one. I did.
I did too.
I like it.
I did.
But before we do say goodbye to everybody on this All Hallows Eve.
All Hallows Eve.
Would you like to give any information?
Sure. Let me tell you where you can find me and our podcast and all that stuff. Everything you need is on my website at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. I do readings. I do mentoring. I also have a blog and this podcast, obviously. You can find it all there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. And I do art, if you like it. DJonesArtCollection.com on the web. Also can find me on Instagram and Facebook at DJonesArtCollection. And music, playing a band, gypsybrown.com. You can find us on Instagram at gypsybrownmusic and also on Facebook.
Yay.
And there you have it.
There you have it.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We had a great time.
We sure did. And again, happy Halloween.
Yes. Go get some candy.
Yep.
Bring me some, too.
Yeah.
'Cause I'll eat it if you don't want it.
Oh, yeah. Especially the peanut butter stuff.
Well, we hope you have a great night. Be safe out there.
Yep.
And happy Halloween. Have a great week. And until next week,
Peace and love.